This is Omar Nashashibi in Washington, D.C. with an update on trade. The Office of the U.S. Trade Representative is extending the exclusions from the 25 and 7.5% Section 301 tariffs on Chinese goods for 81 COVID-related products. The official notice, published in the Federal Register on November 29, 2022, extends the exclusion for 3 months. It is important to note that the USTR did not fully restart the exclusion process, but the 90-day extension is an important indicator of what may come next. But more on that timeline in a minute. USTR originally provided the exclusions for 99 products needed to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, which are covered by the Section 301 investigation into China's acts, policies, and practices related to technology transfer, intellectual property, and innovation. These included such goods as disposable face masks, surgical gloves, hand sanitizer, and x-ray equipment. These exclusions for medical care products to address COVID-19 were published on December 29, 2020, and subsequently extended multiple times by the U.S. Trade Representative. In November 2021, after receiving comments from stakeholders, USTR extended the exclusions for 81 of the 99 of those COVID-related products for 6 months and allowing the remainder to expire on November 30th, 2021. The 81 exclusions were further extended in June for an additional 6 months and then were set to run out on November 30th, 2022, which brings us to where we are now. This latest extension will keep the exclusions in place until the end of February 2023. You'll notice that the USTR literally gave importers 1 single day's notice, releasing the announcement on November 29th with the expiration planned for the next day on November 30th, 2022. This batch of 81 exclusions is separate from the 549 that are still active but expiring themselves on December 31st of this year. That list of 549 imports from China that are not subject currently to the tariffs for the next few weeks include items such as pumps and compressors, water heaters, frames, poles, and other metal products, in addition to motors, microscopes, and consumer-oriented goods such as bicycles and crib liners. We do not have an indication as of yet whether USTR will also extend those tariffs expiring at the end of this year, but we could see them provide a 60-day extension to align with the COVID-related products or just reinstate the tariffs outright by allowing the exclusions to expire. By potentially aligning the two batches, though, brings us back to the 90-day extension granted for the products if they do, in fact, also do one for the 60-day on the December 31 batch. The Office of the U.S. Trade Representative is currently accepting public comments in an open electronic portal through January 17th about the effectiveness and the impact of the Section 301 tariffs. The federal government is taking this step as part of a mandatory 4-year review of the tariff action on the Section 301 investigation that was initiated by the previous administration to counter China's intellectual property theft and forced technology transfer. There are currently 25% tariffs on 6,800 imports from China and 7.5% tariffs on roughly 3,200 Chinese products. The 90-day extension gives USTR some time after this portal closes on January 17th to consider whether to open a full exclusion process, unilaterally lift some tariffs, or retain them all. The timing might just fit together for us to see some answers in the coming months about the Biden administration's tariff policy towards China, since as of now, it is still a continuation of the status quo under former President Trump. I do want to highlight the USTR 301 portal that is currently open. If companies want to have their voices heard, whether it is against the tariffs, for them, now is the time to contact CLA and work on a filing. Whether the submission may not sway the immediate outcome of the imposition of the tariffs, many believe that USTR is going to review the comments in the context of the future exclusion process. So you want to have your case put on the record right now, and it might help you out later. One other item to track, we are still not seeing a scenario where the U.S. enters into a full free trade agreement with another country during the next Congress in 2023 or 4. The Biden administration has not expressed interest, but they are still moving forward with the broader frameworks they're negotiating under global partnerships with certain trading allies. The U.S. entered into the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework with 14 countries, and throughout the year has been negotiating the initial goals. The IPEF, as it's known, has 4 major pillars: trade, supply chains, clean economy, and a fair economy. Congress is now starting to take notice, though. The administration's been having all these discussions on their own. A bipartisan group of senators fired off a letter to the Biden administration calling for more engagement with Capitol Hill and transparency into the discussions. We'll keep track of this in the U.S.-EU Trade and Technology Council, which is also meeting in December. We are increasingly hearing about conversations about increased export controls here in Washington, D.C. on shipments to China from the U.S. Some are even discussing a more strategic export plan when looking at where the U.S. government emphasizes certain exports to China and while it restricts some others. Definitely stay tuned on that, especially in the context of other discussions the United States is having with other groups overseas in other countries. But we are still seeing some pushback on further China restrictions here, even on Capitol Hill, where some are starting to look at the ban on semiconductors in federal contracts as being a hindrance. So in the broader context of the tariff and the exclusion process, the overall review under the 301 portal opening USTR has, discussions with trade allies, there's quite a bit here on the table in Washington, D.C. when it comes to trade. That's the latest from here in town. As always, please reach out to CLA for more information.